know.
Alright, what is up everyone? Topster here, and in this video I am gonna give you guys the full-on Balance Druid PvP guide. Now I am so happy right now because a lot of you commented some nice words on the last Balance Druid PvP montage that I put out a week ago, and a lot of you asked some questions as well, which I love to see. And some of the questions were, Topster, why did you go with the specific talents that you ran on the PvP montage? How are you doing these one shots? How do you make a boring spec look so fun? Well, you know what, guys? I thought, why don't I just make a balanced PvP guide considering the season just started, so you can jump into PvP and have some fun. In this video, I will talk about your normal talents, I will talk about the PvP talents you need to go with, and I will talk about the two different playstyles that you can play or choose just based on these talents itself. I will also talk about your gearing, the specific stats you need to look for. I will talk about your conduits that you need to look for as well, and your best in slot legendaries for Balance Druid PvP. And I will also talk about the covenants. There's two covenants at the moment that's really good for Balance Druid in PvP. I will explain all of that in this video. And to end the video off, I will show you guys the playstyle, the rotation, and the cheekiest exploits you can do to have fun and show your skills to other players as a Balance Druid. With that being said, guys, there is a little giveaway I am doing once we hit 500 subscribers. I don't want to get in deep about the giveaway considering this is a guide and a lot of you people are here for the guide itself, but if you're interested, be sure to check the link in the description below. I will explain how to enter the giveaway. With that being said, before we jump into the video, I will put down a timer or the time gaps page. So if you want to skip ahead to a certain topic in this video, just check the timer and skip ahead. That is if you're willing to, or you can watch the full video as well. With that being said, guys, let's jump on right into the talents. Alright, let's get right into the talents. So for your level 15 talents, you got Nature's Balance, Warrior of Elune, and Force of Nature. Now, Force of Nature is completely out of the equation. Don't even look at this for PvP. Now, you want to look at Nature's Balance and Warrior of Elune. Most Balance Druids prefer Nature's Balance, but I personally don't like it because it's a passive effect, and Warrior of Elune is not a passive, it's more buttons in my action bars, and that is why I prefer. And Warrior of Elune really helps with burst pressure as well. So what Warrior of Elune does is your next 3 Starfires are instant cast and generates 40% increased astral power. Now, Starfire is one of your longest casting spells. It takes 2 seconds to cast, and you can tell when you're in Eclipse and you got melee training you, this could be really hard to get off, and that is why Warrior of Elune comes in really handy. You press it, you get the magical debuff. You do want to be careful with the magic debuff if you're facing classes that can purge off your magical buffs. Be careful with that, but what this does is you press it, you get the buff, and your next 3 Starfires are instant. Right now I'm in the Lunar Eclipse, which is amazing because Starfire does more damage, and I'm getting 3 instant Starfire procs, which is really helpful for me, and I get a free Star Surge in that way. For me, this is a fun spell, this is bursty, and this goes really well with New Moon, which I will talk later in the video, but Nature's Balance is also good. I would prefer Nature's Balance more of an AoE build because it gives you astral power when you're out of combat, and this goes really well with Solstice, Fury of Elune, and your PvP talent, Dying Stars. Sunfire and Moonfire generate 3 astral power when they are dispelled, so these talents go really well if you're running the Starfire build to do AoE damage in rated battlegrounds or even in arenas. So for level 15, my personal choice is Warrior of Elune, but you can also run with Nature's Balance. I would play around with both of these and see which one you like the most. Okay, and for your level 25 talents, you got Tiger's Dash, Renewal, and Wild Charge. Now there's 2 options in here, but only 1 for arenas. So in arenas, if you want to push high rating or do good, you want to go with Renewal because this is one of Balance Druid's main defensives. Now what Renewal does is it heals you instantly for 30% of maximum health, usable in all shapeshift forms, and your best bet or most high rated Balance Druids in arenas when they're in trouble, they go into their bear form, and let's say you're facing rogue mage and you're stunned and you get out of stun, you use a renewal, instant press, and it heals for 30% of your HP. Renewal is on a short cooldown and it's really useful for arenas. Tiger's Dash nobody really goes with because it replaces your dash. Renewal, definitely the choice for arenas. And for Wild Charge, now this is a fun spell, mostly usable in Battlegrounds slash rated Battlegrounds. You can use Renewal in rated Battlegrounds as well, but Wild Charge is just really fun. It gives you this extra spell, a fun extra spell for each shapeshift form available to you. So, when you're in human form, or when you're in your balanced boomkin form, you get Wild Charge. One of the things it changes into is bounce backward from your enemies. So let's say a bunch of melee are attacking you, you can just yeet out and piece it. And it's on a 15 cooldown, you just bounce back. It's really helpful and fun as a balance druid. And in cat form, you get a charge pretty much. It's on a cooldown, I'll wait for the cooldown to end. If you want to bash someone and CC, you could just go into cat form and get there, bash, CC them into a cyclone or something. And there's more forms to it as well. When you're in travel form, you leap forward, and when you're in human form, you fly to an ally's position just like a cat form leap is. This is really useful in BGs. You can be creative with it in arenas as well, but again, if you want to push high rating, Renewal is a choice to go. These two are playable. Try them both and see what you like the most. At the end of the day, it's about what is fun to you and what you think is beneficial to your playstyle. For your level 30 talents, you got Feral Affinity, Garden Affinity, and Restoration Affinity. Now, all three of these viable, but for Balance Druids, I would prefer Garden Affinity, and I'm pretty sure most high rated boomies are also Garden Affinity. Now it says it reduces all damage taken by 10%. This is a passive effect. If someone deals damage to you, you're taking 10% less damage at all times. Now this should be a 6% for you. It's only a 10% for me due to my legendary. What my legendary does, it increases all three of these effects depending on which effect I chose with. It increases all effects by 75%, and that is why a 6% damage taken reduced is a 10% for myself. Now, what are the good things of being a Guardian Affinity? So when you go into Bear form, you get Frenzied Region. Now this heals you for 32% over 3 seconds, and it's on a 30-second cooldown. That is insane. If you compare that with Renewal, that's absolutely nuts. And plus, you're in Bear form, you're a tank. This is what makes Balance Druids tanky in PvP. Considering how fast-paced PvP is right now, this talent is really beneficial, and I would definitely prefer it. You also get Incapacitating Roar, which is a disorient. So if you want in arenas, you can use your Conduit, which is Night Fate. You could blink to someone or run up to them. You could incap them into a cyclone or something. That is a really high skill cap play in arenas in certain situations. It brings extra CC and extra damage taken, or extra reduce all damage taken debuff. Definitely the one to go in this tier. Restoration Affinity is more of a feral thing, but for balance, you definitely want to stick with Guardian Affinity. So for your level 35 talents, you got Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, and Heart of the Wild. Now, Heart of the Wild is really useless for me because I have this legendary, and it gives me the Heart of the Wild effect for 10 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. So when I'm in combat, I go into Bear, I get 2 Frenzied Region, and heals you for 60% over 6 seconds with Renewal. That's like an almost 100% heal over like 8 seconds or something. That is nuts. Definitely, Heart of the Wild is definitely useless for Balance Druids if you have the legendary. However, Mighty Bash and Mass Entanglement is really useful. Now, Mighty Bash is a stun you can use in all forms. So when you're in Bear form, let's say you got melee training you, you're dying, and you need to stun someone to stop the pressure a bit. You don't need to come out of form. You can just stun someone in Bear form, and it stuns the target. Definitely useful in arenas. And Mass Entanglement is also useful in arenas. Okay, so why is Mass Entanglement good? So Mass Entanglement is an instant root for 8 seconds pretty much in PvP circumstances. So why would this be good? A lot of high rated boomies in 3v3 arenas use this, and this is really good in 3s because you can macro it with Solar Beam. Now what Solar Beam does is it can interrupt or silence all enemies when they're within the beam for 8 seconds. Within the beam. Now if you think about this, a route into Solar Beam, that person you're beaming is stuck within the route and they can't do anything except for getting dispelled from their teammates or using their trinket. Now this is an extra form of crowd control in PvP. I have a macro for this. I use a lot of focus macros, so this is my focus macro. So let's say I'm in 2s or 3s, right? And these are the enemy players, and let's say the healer is over here. Now I'm gonna put this healer on focus. I put the healer on focus right here, and that's the enemy target. So let's say in arenas, main goal for anyone to succeed is to CC / crowd control the healer. So I just need to press my macro, boom, the healer is rooted and silence for 8 seconds, and we do our goes on the DPS. And after the silence ends, I can just put it into a clone. Now obviously the clone doesn't land because this is not a player, but if it was a player, the clone would land, and that's just more crowd control. I could use my Feral or Guardian Affinity to use my in-cap after the clone as well. Either way, that's a lot of CC, and mass entanglement is really useful, and I'm pretty sure 90% of the balance druids in high arenas use this just like how I showed you. Unless they're facing a Resto Druid team, you would use a mass entanglement on healers mostly, unless if it's a Resto Druid. If it is a Resto Druid, you would go with Mighty Bash because Resto Druids can just shift out of the form even when they are silenced, but other healers cannot. Other healers have to use their trinkets, which is really good in arenas. So mass entanglement for arenas for sure, however Mighty Bash for RBGs and World PvP. Right, so for level 40 talents, you got Soul of the Forest, Starlord, and Incarnation Chosen of Elune. Now obviously my preference is Incarnation, however Soul of the Forest is good as well. Now what Soul of the Forest does is your Eclipses increases your Rat's Astral Power generation by 50% and increases Starfire area effect damage by 150%. Now what that means is Starfire, when you use it, it does AoE damage for the people around it within 8 yards as well. That AoE damage within 8 yards is increased by 150% if you go with this talent. However, it is good in certain situations, but I personally think Incarnation is way better because when you're Incarnation as a Balance Druid, you crit as a freaking truck, dude. You hit really hard, and if people just let you free cast at them, they're getting their faces smacked. Now when you're Incarnation, your Star Surges crit and do a lot of damage. It also puts you in both your Eclipses as well, so you can cast both Wrath and Lunar Fire. It is a 3-minute cooldown, but it lasts for 30 seconds. That's a fair trade. For me personally, it's really useful in arenas and for RBGs as well. I would prefer Incarnation, Chosen of Elune, but if you want to go with Soul of the Forest, so be it. But for me, I'm gonna say Incarnation, Chosen of Elune is the talent of choice. Okay, and for your level 45 talents, you got Stellar Drift, Twin Moons, and Stellar Flare. Now again, Stellar Flare is out of the equation, don't even look at it. For PvP, Stellar Drift and Twin Moons are both viable. I personally prefer Stellar Drift because it increases Starfall's duration by 2 seconds and its damage by 15%. And Starfall is your most AoE damaging spell. Also lets you cast while Starfall is active. And if you think about it, you can pretty much run around and cast at all times. So let me build up my Astral Power here and I'll show you. So I got 50 Astral Power. I'm gonna use Starfall and I can run around and cast at this target. This is really helpful in PvP situations. If I wanted to, I could run around and cast at all times because I could keep my Starfall up and I could keep damaging. Also, this is really useful and you can get cheeky with it. It's a really fun spell and that is why I prefer it. And Starfall does a lot of damage as well. Twin Moons is more of a bursty spec for arenas. If you're certain teams, certain comps you play requires you to be a bursty spec, and with Warrior of the Moon and New Moon, Twin Moons goes good as well. Twin Moon is rare. Moonfire deals 30% increased damage and also hits another nearby enemies within 15 yards of the target. Twin Moons is also really good with Crescent Burn, which means using Moonfire on a target already affected by Moonfire, the damage of Moonfire is increased by an additional 35%. So 35% and the 10% is really good in arenas. However, Stellar Drift is the way to go for BGs and World PvP. I prefer Stellar Drift because, again, it's more of a fun spell for me. But at the end of the day, for yourself, play between these two and choose wisely depending on what situation you are in. Okay, and for the final tier of talents, for level 50, all three of these are viable. Solstice, Fury of the Moon, and New Moon. All three of these are good. Solstice, during the first 6 seconds of every eclipse, shooting stars fall 300% more often. This is really helpful if you're with Nature's Balance into Solstice and Dying Stars. It's AoE build, and this is really good. Even with the bursty build, Solstice really helps with arenas as well. Now, if you're not aware of Shooting Stars, that is your passive effect. When you have Sunfire and Moonfire on the target, it has a chance to deal 530 astral damage by calling a Shooting Star upon it, and it generates 3 astral power. Now, if you think about it, 200% more when you jump into Eclipse, which is quite often, and you get 3 astral power every time it procs. It's absolutely nuts. This with Nature's Balance and Dying Stars is insane. You get a lot of astral power, which means you can call down the starfalls at all times and do a lot of AoE damage. Fury of the Elune is also good if you're facing melee cleaves in PvP, such as 3-3 arenas, to do AoE damage. But my personal opinion in this talent row is New Moon, because New Moon is bursty. Again, New Moon pairs up with Warrior Balloon really well, and it's an extra spell to use. Now, what New Moon does is there's 3 versions of New Moon. I'm in the middle one, which is Half Moon. I pretty much cast a Half Moon, it goes in, and then I got the Full Moon, which does a lot of damage actually. A lot of people say Full Moon is bad, but with the Nightfade Covenant, Convoke the Spirits, there's a chance that it drops 2 full moons in a row if needed, if you're that lucky. And full moon is a lot of burst, and I personally enjoy this. This also generates astral power, and there's 3 charges as well. For me, without full moon and Warrior Balloon, Balance Druid is a 4 not fun class, because that's 2 less fun spells that I'm missing out on. But people have different preferences. However, if you're a Balance Druid, I would definitely try all 3 of these out and see what you like the best. So now let's get on to the PvP talents. So for the PvP talents, the preference choice for myself is Moonkin Aura, Thorns, and Celestial Guardian. Now this is what I go with at most times with the single target burst spec that I am with Warrior Balloon, Incarnation, and the New Moons. Now, what Moonkin Aura does, every time you Star Surge, it gives you a 4% increased critical strike, and it stacks up to 3 times, and it also gives your allies within 40 yards the buff for 18 seconds as well. Now, that's a lot of seconds, and when stacked at 3 times, it goes up to, if you do the math, 12%. Now, let me show you how that works. Let me just get some astral power here. And as a Boomy, crit is really helpful, because crit is what makes your Star Surges, hit hard. So as you see, I Star Surge once, and I got the Moonkin Aura buff. I Star Surge again, I got the 8%. Let me just get the 3rd stack, and there we go. I'm at 12% increased critical strike chance. That's 22%, and you give it to your allies as well. Now this is a really useful talent in PvP circumstances, such as raided battlegrounds itself, and in arenas as well. And my second choice is Thorns. Now Thorns is really good in arena situations where you're facing melee. So let's say you're facing double melee, such as a warrior and a death knight, right? And they're training your healer. You can put Thorns on your healer, and it reduces the melees, the warrior and the death knight's movement speed by 50%, and they also take a lot of damage back. Now, it only says 1766 nature damage, but trust me, in PvP circumstances, that's actually a lot. I would definitely play around with it and seek for yourself. And for my final choice, Celestial Guardian. Now this is like a must for Balance Druids in arenas, and that is because while in bear form you take 10% less damage from spells, which is pretty much versus or against all casters, and receive 20% increase healing. Now remember when I said Guardian Affinity and as a Balance Druid your main defensive is bear form? Well, when you're in bear form and you're taking 20% more healing from your healers, plus with all your defensives, that is definitely so good and you can't miss out on it. Now other options that you can go with, there's a lot, but to the other AoE build with Nature's Balance, Solstice, Fear the Elune, is I would definitely recommend running Dying Stars if you're in RBGs and you need the big AoE Starfall damage, because by this build you can keep generating astral power constantly and keep pumping out damage with it. Crescent Burn is really good for burst in arenas, and Fairy Storm is good in certain situations as well, like in duels, World PvP, and arenas itself, where you can just pretty much disarm a melee attacker, and it takes away their weapons and also reduces their speed by 30%. There's a lot of other talents as well. High Winds is really good in arenas as well. Other than that, rest of them are minor ones, but you can read them all and check them all out and try it all out and play with it. But for now, these are my 3 favorite choices, and that's what I am most of the time with the current build I am playing. Alright, so now let's get to the Covenant. So there's 2 Covenants I want to talk about, and that is Night Fae and Bastion. We'll start off with Night Fae and I'll get to Bastion. So why am I Night Fae? Now Night Fae is a really fun Covenant because it gives you this spell that's really powerful at the moment, and it can literally one-shot anyone if you get it off. Now what Night Fae Covenant spell is, you channel this thing and it lets you cast 14 druid spells in 4 seconds. Or sorry, it lets you cast 16 druid spells, not 14. 16 druid spells in 4 seconds. That's absolutely nuts. And if you're spec'd into New Moon, there's a chance that you can drop a full moon on someone. I've dropped 2 full moons on someone before. If you're that lucky, you will. So what it pretty much is, you want to stay away as far away as from the target, because when you're in melee range, it does a lot of feral spells, which is, it doesn't do much damage. You want to stay as far as you can, and that's when you get the most damage out. So pretty much all it does is you cast this thing and it casts a bunch of spells. Put a heal on me. It put like a lot of Star Surges around, Starfall and Rats. It's just really amazing. I really love the spell because I play this game purely for fun. And Night Fae is really fun, and it does a lot of damage too. And if you don't believe me, here, let me just show you what kind of damage this does. I'll show you a clip from the Balance Druid montage that I created, and you can speak for yourself after seeing this clip. Alright, now here's the clip, right? So this is how strong Night Fae spell is. So there's a warrior. I'm gonna stun him here, and I'm gonna cast Night Fae. Let's look what happens at the warrior. This warrior gets absolutely shredded, and I still have 1 extra second on my Night Fae spell. So that's how busted Night Fae is right now. It hasn't gotten nerfed yet, but it might in the future. With that being said, if you're wanting to push high arenas, Night Fae is probably not the spell for you, because it's really countered with skillful players, because they can just kick the interrupt or interrupt the cast, and then you're pretty much screwed. But if you can get it off, it's really amazing, and you can really blow someone up, and that is the main reason why I am Night Fae. I'm having so much fun with it. And another thing is you get an extra blink, which is absolutely nuts. It's like extra mobility to the class. You can get away from melee and just peace out and go somewhere else. With that being said, Night Fae is one of the covenants I want to talk about, and I definitely think it's strong on certain aspects in World PvP and RBGs and Raider Battleground if you want to have fun. And let's get to the second covenant, which is Bastion here. Alright, so now let's get on to the Bastion Covenant. Unfortunately, I can't show you the spells in action, however, I can go through them. So number one, you get Kindred Spirits as your class ability. Now what this does is it's a 1 minute cooldown and it lasts for 10 seconds, and you can either use it on yourself or your ally. When you use it on your ally, you energize the bond with your partner, granting them 20% of the damage you deal as arcane damage or healing. And if you use it on yourself, and this is the best part about it, it increases your damage done by 15% for 10 seconds. Now if you think about it, 15% for 10 seconds on a 1 minute cooldown is really amazing. And if you think really close, you can line that up with your root beam, which is right, let me just find it real quick, right here, which is also on a 1 minute cooldown. You can line that up with your mass entanglement root beam. Every 1 minute you can CC the healer instantly for 8 seconds, and lone empowerment, you can just use it. It lasts 10 seconds, 15% increased damage. So this is like a crowd control go situation in arenas, and I would definitely prefer Bastion if you're trying to push high rating in arenas, because Convoke the Spirits as Night Fae is easily countered in high rating arenas, because players are high skill cap and they will just kick it, stun you, or CC you when you cast it. So that's why a lot of boomies go with lone empowerment, because it lines up with all your cooldowns and it's just really good for push 3v3 or high rating in arenas. You also get Summon Steward. What this does is you summon this little owl thing that gives you a lot of other stuff, but the main thing that he or she gives you is the hellstone looking thing. So what this is he's gonna give you this warlock hellstone wannabe cookie or whatever, and you use that cookie thing and you get 20% health instantly, and it removes all curse, disease, poison, and bleed effects on a 5 minute cooldown. Now this is an extra defensive. Now you can think, as a boomy, you got bear form, you got renewal, which is a 30%. When you go into bear, you got 32%. With legendaries, you pretty much go up to 60%, and on top of that, you get another 20% heal. That is absolutely nuts and really helpful in arenas. Now, if nothing Covenant wise gets nerfed or changed, I can bet you that a lot of high rated boomies will be Bastion, because they have a really good toolkit and a really nice helpful spells that Bastion rewards you. Now that is my preference. Night Fae or Bastion is the Covenant to go with PvP. Maldraxxus and Winter kinda just sucks, I'm sorry to say, but in PvP, Bastion and Night Fae is what I personally think is the best. Again, it depends on your gameplay and your playstyle. Now let's look at the gearing and the specific stats you need to look for. Now in PvP, as you see, versatility is my highest number you see here, and versatility is the best stat for PvP for every single class in this game for Shadowlands Season 1. And why that is, it's because versatility increases your damage and healing done by the percent amount you have, and decreases damage taken by half of that percent amount. Now for example, mine says 21%, it's only jumping to a 24% because of my conduits, but let's say we're at a 21% flat. It increases my damage and healing done by 21%, and decreases damage taken by an extra 10%. Now think about it. Your Guardian Affinity on top of your extra damage taken reduction, that is absolutely nuts, and every class needs this. If you're any class looking to get into PvP, make sure you have versatility. If you're wondering why you're dying quickly in BGs and arenas, well, take a look at your versatility. If you're somewhere around 10% or lower than 15%, that's bad. That's probably why you're dying. Make sure you're up to date with the gear. You can get versatility gear from the PvP vendors over here in Orbos, right by the enclave. There's 3 vendors here. There's the honor vendor, and there's the conquest vendor right here, and you can upgrade your gear from both of those vendors over here. Do check them out. And for your secondary stats, my preference is to keep all 3 of these stats somewhere around the same number. So for example, mine is 10% crit, 11% haste, and 11% mastery. Now mastery increases your damage while you're in Eclipse, haste increases your casting speed, and crit gives you more chances to critical strike. Now you might think, both of these look really viable, but trust me, versatility is your major. I would focus on versatility first, and then get to your secondary stats later. My preference to you is to keep 3 of these stats around the same number so you can get the most, you can be most effective through them. It's really easy to get versatility because both of these vendors give you versatility gear on pretty much everything. You just gotta focus on what secondary stat you want to, uh, stack. And again, my preference is to keep them all around the same number so you can have the most fun with it. With that being said, that is all for gearing. Again, stack versatility. This is where you buy the PvP gear, and that's that. Alright, so now let's get on to the legendaries. So there is a lot of legendaries that you could choose from, but for PvP, there's only some that's really uh, good in PvP, and those are the one I'm using at the moment, which is Oath of the Elder Druid. Now this can be used for all specializations, which is one thing I like because I play Resto Druid a lot too. What this does is, as I said before, it increases your all three of this talent rose effects by 75%, and that is why my Guardian Affinity is 10%, and it's supposed to be 6%, but with the legendary it's a 10% damage taken reduction flatline. And it gives me 2 charges of Frenzied Region when I'm in combat. Now I'm not in combat, that's why it's not 2. But when I'm in combat, it gives me 2 charges of this. Pretty much gives me Heart of the Wild for free every 1 minute instead of a 5-minute cooldown, which is really useful in defensive situations and to not die in PvP. And your other legendary that I would recommend getting is Time Worn Dreambinder, which Star Surge and Starfall reduce the cost of Star Surge and Starfall by 10% and increases their damage by 10% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So if you think about it, it does more damage when it stacks, and in Greater Battlegrounds, in BGs and World PvP, you can pretty much have the increased damage buff at all times if you do your rotation perfectly, or kind of perfectly. If you just keep up with your astral power, your eclipses, and your rotation, this would be a really good legendary to do a lot of damage. And your other legendary that's absolutely amazing is Onit's Clear Vision. Now this is a little hard to get because it drops from the last boss of the raid tier, considering the season just started, but you will get it eventually, I promise. I hope you get it. What this does is Star Surge has a 20% chance to make Starfall free and instant, and Starfall has a 40% chance to make Star Surge free. Now if you think about it, dude, in Battlegrounds, you put Starfall down, you get instant and free cast of Star Surge for free, or has a chance. That is absolutely nuts and really fun legendary. I can't wait to get this one. This one's going to be really fun, and I will do a lot of damage, maximize my damage to the upfront efforts with this. I can't wait to get this one, and those 3 are the legendaries so far for Balance Druids in PvP. In my opinion, that's worth it, but you can rate all of them and see if anything else you like better than the ones I showed you. But if you're new to the game, if you're new to the Balance Druids, I would definitely aim for Oath of the Elder Druid, Onit's Clear Vision, and Time Worn Dreambinder for your legendaries. Alright, okay, now let's talk about the conduits. So the first one you can find, what this does is it increases your celestial alignment duration by 6.5 seconds. At the end of the day, incarnation replaces celestial alignment, so it means your incarnation's cooldown is increased from, or it lasts, the lasting cooldown is increased from 30 seconds to 36.5 seconds, so that's really helpful. And the other one that I want to talk about is, where did I get it from? I think it was the other side, yep, from the first boss. Umbral Intensity, Eclipse damage bonus to Wrath and Starfire starts 39% stronger. Pretty much is saying you that when you get into Eclipse, you're doing more damage with Wrath and Starfire. Other than that, there's a lot of other conduits, guys. I can't go through all of them, but these 2 are my so far the best ones. Again, the season just started. Conduits aren't really a big thing because they're a hit or miss. Alright, so now let's get to the rotation part. Now, Balancer rotation is pretty simple. Your main goal as a Balancer is to get your 2 dots out and get as much astral power as you can. And you want to use it on either Star Surge, which costs 30 astral power and is your most insane single target spell. You want to make sure you get as many star surges as you can into the target because it does a lot of damage. If you're around AoE situations where there's a lot of enemies around you, you want to use your astral power on Starfall, which does a lot of AoE damage and costs 50 astral power. Now, most Balance Druids or people that are trying to get into Balance Druid, what they struggle with is Eclipse and how eclipses work. So let me tell you what kind of eclipses there are. So there's two eclipses. Solar eclipse, which empowers your wrath. So when you're in solar eclipse, your wrath cast time is reduced by 15% and the damage is increased by 27%. It should be your favorite eclipse because wrath is already a shorter cast time. And when you're in that eclipse, it's even more of a shorter cast time and it does a lot of damage as well. However, there's a lunar eclipse as well, which means your Starfire cast time is reduced by 15% and critical strike chance is increased by 27%. Now, 15% is not a lot, but when you pair that up with Warrior of the Elune and your Boomkin form, which is Boomkin form right here, while you're in this form, single targets against you have a 15% chance to make your next Starfire instant. Not a lot of new Boomy players know this, but whenever there's melee training you, you will see a debuff called Owl Frenzy, and what Owl Frenzy does is your next Starfire is instant. That's right, so whenever there's melee on you, your next Starfire is instant. It happens a lot, guys. When you're in BGs and arenas and there's melee on you, you get a lot of Starfire procs, which is really nice and one cool thing about this class. Okay, so now let's get to the Eclipse part. Now, a lot of new Balance Druid players struggle with understanding how Eclipse works. Even me personally, I do struggle with it here and there, but as most classes are, the more you play the class and the spec, the more you are, good with it. The more you realize on how your spells work, and the better you get at the class. So how Eclipse works is, let me just tell you what Eclipse is. So when you're in Eclipse, there's two types of Eclipse. So there's Solar Eclipse, and when you're in Solar Eclipse, it empowers your Wrath. So what it does is it makes your Wrath's cast time reduced by 15% and it increases its damage by 27%. And there's Lunar Eclipse, which means Starfire's cast time is reduced by 15% and the critical strike chance is increased by 27%. I'm not going to read the passive on it because it'll probably just confuse you even more. I'll just give you an easier explanation. So if you look closely, there's my Wrath over here and my Starfire right here. And you will see a number 2 between those icons and the spells. So what that number 2 means is if you use up one of the spells here, so if I use up Wrath 2 times, that means I'm gonna be in Lunar Eclipse. So you want to use the opposite spell to activate the opposite Eclipse. If that doesn't make sense, let me just show you how that works here. So let's say I want to activate Lunar Eclipse right away. And to activate Lunar Eclipse, I gotta cast Wrath twice. So let me just cast Wrath here. I'm gonna cast it 2 times, and I'm gonna be in Lunar Eclipse. Now, it's simple as that. So and if I want to be in Solar Eclipse, I want to cast Lunar Strike twice. I can't do it right now because I'm already in Lunar Eclipse. So I'm just gonna use up my Lunar Eclipse here. My Lunar Eclipse is done, and I will see a number 2 on Starfire. I can use Wrath again and activate Lunar Eclipse once more because I already did it. So now, since there's a number 2 here, I'm gonna use Starfire twice, and it's gonna activate Solar Eclipse, and boom, I am in Solar Eclipse. So a better way to put it is if you see any numbers, or if you see only one number, that's an easier way. That means you gotta use that spell twice, or depending on the amount of number there is, it's gonna be 1 or 2. You want to use that spell and activate the other Eclipse to really maximize your damage. Now again, I just used up that Eclipse. Now I have no Eclipses, but there is a number 2 on Wrath. I'm gonna cast Wrath twice, and I'm gonna be in Lunar Eclipse. It's as simple as that. Don't get too hurt into it if you don't get it. It is a bit confusing. There can only be one Eclipse active at a time, and considering you gotta use the opposite spell, it is a bit hard. But with that being said, practice around with it and you will eventually get it. Now for the rotation, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have your dots up. You know, your dots are Moonfire and Sunfire. So the first thing you want to do again, get your 2 dots up. Goal is to, you know, get Astral Power and dump it on either Star Surge or Starfall. Now, Star Surge only costs 30 Astral Power, and it's your most single target spell. So Star Surge is your burst. Star Surge should be your top damage in arenas because, you know, it hits hard, but in BGs and in AoE situations, you want to use Starfall because it costs 50 Astral Power, and it does massive amounts of AoE damage. Plus, you can run around and cast while your Starfall is up. With that being said, guys, that is about it for the rotation. It's pretty simple. You know, the hardest thing is managing your eclipses, but again, trust me, the more you play Balance Druids, the more you understand how your eclipses work. With that being said, uh, don't forget to keep your dots up on everyone, and, you know, focus on figuring your eclipse out and getting Astral Power and using it on your spenders. And another thing is, the only way you can have both your eclipses active is when you use Incarnation or Celestial Alignment, because it lets both your eclipses active. And boomies are really scary when they're incarn, because with both eclipses active, that means they can do whatever the fuck they want, and, you know, it's a really good way to maximize your damage and for burst pressure as well. With that being said, guys, that is it for the rotation part. It is pretty simple. Just practice around with it and you'll eventually get it. Alright, you guys, that is it for the Balance Druid PvP guide. I hope you guys learned a thing or two on this video if you're getting into the class. With that being said, guys, do remember that every class, the more practice you put in, the better you will be at understanding how your spec works. I hope you learned something from this video. It was a bit long, so I do apologize for that, but if you made it through the end, I just want to say thank you to everyone. And just a reminder that I am giving away 2 World of Warcraft WoW tokens / subscriptions for 2 lucky winners, and a $50 PayPal giveaway to 1 lucky winner. So that's 3 giveaways. Once we reach 500 subscribers, I will pick them out and I will announce on my Twitter. You can find more details in the link in the description. All you gotta do to enter is like, subscribe, and of course comment down below, and I will enter your name down. With that being said, guys, again, thank you for watching. We've been killing it on YouTube for the past couple days. Thank you everyone for the fucking support, dude. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully this video helped. Hopefully you kill it as a Balance Druid in Shadowlands Season 1. I am gonna shut up now. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and peace out.